Hello. Whenever something awful happens, like the El Paso shooting or the Dayton shooting, I tend to go into a sort of freeze. What hits me is the awful reminder of evil in the world. Yesterday, a teenager grabbed a 6-year-old child and threw him off a building in London. We don't know why he did that, but it seemed somewhat more than coincidental that that happened on the heels of what had happened in America. And these things, they freeze me up because what hits me is this awful reminder of evil in the world. And I have terrible trouble coming to terms with that. It just stops me in my tracks. And then I start thinking, what can I say about such a thing? And I always come to the conclusion that the world is a pretty shitty place. And actually, I did 2 videos before this one. I don't know if this is going to be the final one, but the 2 previous ones, they were just me talking about how terrible things are and can be. But then each time I thought, after I'd finished the video, there's something wrong there. And I just binned it. And then it struck me that this is exactly what those tossers want me to think. I'm letting them direct my opinions. They're pissed off with the world, so they want everyone else to be pissed off. I'm not saying that the people who've lost their friends and their parents and their children are supposed to just pick themselves up and dust themselves off. Far from it. They have been hit by a blow of inexplicable malevolence and of course have every right to be as poleaxed by that as anyone would be in that situation. But it wasn't only the dead that these young monsters were attacking, and it wasn't their relatives either. It was all of us, because these kids were so at odds with the world and hate it so much that they're prepared to kill children and old people in order to send a message to all of us that we can't rejoice in anything. Both of them, apparently, were radicals, one on the left and one on the right. And the mission of such people is usually, their idea in doing these enormities is that they want to make the social situation so bad that we start fighting each other. And then out of the resulting anarchy will come, well, who knows, something they think anyway, something that these twisted, warped psychopaths would hope for, whatever they're hoping for. But first, they have to make us lose joy in life and self-confidence in the way we're living our lives. That's what they were shooting at. The people they actually killed were not as important to them as the people whose lives around the world would be darkened by their actions. And that's why, of course, we shouldn't let them. So, my advice is to raise a drink to the dead, give, if giving is required, to the survivors, and then put a comedy on the TV, read a good book, do some research, get your exams studied for, do something of social worth, or bake a cake. They'll defeat us only if we fall into the trap of believing that they had a reason for their obscene corruption. as citizens of the Western liberal tradition, and I assume that I'm speaking mostly to people of the Western liberal tradition, at least that's what my demographics tell me, we have all, as countries, done bad. But in general, we've done much good as well, and probably far more good than bad. The world's a better place for our interference and our cultural heritage and our basic assumptions about human dignity and rights and our cultural propensity towards trying to look after the disadvantaged, trying not to think of other people as subhuman, trying to lift them out of poverty. And for all the actions of people who take guns and shoot innocents, there are hundreds, thousands of people who do the right thing every day of their lives, and they belong in our cultures. They are working in our cultures. They come from our cultures. One of the victims of the El Paso shooting was a 25-year-old woman who died because she was covering over her 2-month-old baby with herself to protect him. He lived. And just like him, life does go on.